off, you're going to get your first taste of spoken word. So if you can please put your hands together and welcome Zander up to the stage.
Hi everybody, it's nice to be here. So, was not expecting to kick off the spoken word group, but we'll go with it. Human rights, the rights all humans are entitled to. Human rights, how we instinctively expect to be treated. Human rights, a life of equality. Human rights, dignity and respect. Human rights, freedom from discrimination. Human rights, freedom from harassment. Human rights, rational dismantle colonial structures and practices, honor First Nations, Métis and Inuit statuses. Many experience exclusion, some even racism, anti-Indigenous, anti-Black oppression, leads to regression, sexism, ableism, and even sexism oppresses. Transphobia and homophobia creates messes. Objective, equitable, respectful, and accessible are the goals. Inclusion and freedom from discrimination are the way to bias and harassment elimination. Identify, address, restore, prevent, protection, age, ancestry, citizenship, and color are all held with grace. Creed, disability, ethnicity, and family are all given space. Origin, marital status, sex, and race all have a place. Gender identity and expression exist without oppression. Socioeconomics, offenses, and orientation are left without suppression. Violations, no tolerance for discrimination, poison, lying, reprisals, and accusation. Harassment and hate are not to fill the tedious nation, nor are allegations, intimidation, or misleading information. Accommodate, prevention is the ultimate intervention. Accommodate, educate early and often so things get comprehension. Accommodate, treat all allegations without apprehension. Accommodate, restoration is the final extension.
I'm going to bring up the spoken word artists. Coming to the stage is Ren, Samara, and also to Emilia. Give them a round of applause. Bring them up to the stage. Spoken word artists and group.
Hi, I'll talk first. So basically, we are part of the spoken word group. We also have Angelika, who's amazing, and Zander, who you already saw. So yeah, I guess we're doing our poems. You wanna go first? Okay, yay! She's gonna go first.
Human rights are equal and just in every land and every bust. They are the pillars of our dignity. They manifest in every identity. From the freedom of speech to humane touch, everyone deserves them, a human touch. Freedom of religion to express your views. Rights are not just words, they are the news. The rights of identity shall know no race. No color should ever be a disgrace. Neither should gender nor sexuality. Rights should be given to everyone with equality. Oh, what a world if these rights were trampled. Society would be dismantled. May we always hold these rights to the light. Prejudice and discrimination shall ever be a plight. Our differences are a blessing to embrace, and only together may we lift up our race. Let's undo this chain of discrimination once and for all, so that every person may stand proud and tall. In this world we live, we all deserve to be treated with respect and verve. Our rights as humans never to swerve. Toward a better world we aim to serve. Human rights, trampled laws, always have been and shall be to the cause. Inhale freedom, take human rights by the reins. equality for all. Let's break the chains.
Hi, I'm Emilia, but everyone calls me Emmy. If you call me Emilia, you're probably a substitute teacher reading the attendance, or my mom if I'm in trouble. So I will go next, and I would also like to apologize in advance if I talk really fast. I do it when I get nervous. That's kind of why all my friends call me M&M. But yeah, okay. The TDSB Human Rights Policy. Well, this is what it's told me. The TDSB is proactively promoting the right of every member in an equitable, accessible, and respectful environment. But how? Free of harassment? Every single member. It's pretty vague if you ask me. Just like the rest of this policy, you see, I spent my Saturday reading a policy to write about it, but I don't get it. The big fluffy words spun in my head around and around because I was too confused to see that it meant nothing to me. I'm sorry, but I don't find meaning in big words that are just telling me I'm safe and protected when I know that I'm not. You may be committed and that's what I thought, but what good is being committed if you still won't take any action? Leaving nothing but your satisfaction, thinking you've done it, but you haven't. Proactively promoting the right of every member. Well, I can think of at least 10 examples from my school alone of how kids are unsafe. And one talking, there was no action. But you still receive your satisfaction thinking that you've done it, but you haven't, because you can't just fix a problem by saying that you will. And still, you receive your satisfaction not knowing what they face every day. Oh, sorry, I messed up. You claim that every child is respected and included when they're not. And I just thought, what if I wanted to learn about my rights? I would have to be sent up the chain of command just to receive a document that I can't even comprehend. But that's not the end. Because bullying won't just stop. If I went up to someone and said, hey, you can't bully me because I'm allowed to be respected in the TDSB, but are we? How are my rights protected when we're all still affected by you turning a blind eye? Well, my speaking out again just to get the answer, no, be quiet. Well, I won't be silent. Hear me now. And don't just sit there and pretend to care, reading your and stare while I speak on the issues you claim to fix, reading your script, saying what you're told while these issues persist.
Hi everyone, my name is Ren and I will be closing off our little trio today. The TDSB Human Rights Policy states that the board will take every reasonable step to prevent discrimination and hate activity, to treat allegations of discrimination seriously and preserve the dignity of all parties, and to fulfill its duty to accommodate persons in accordance with its legal obligations. Oh, okay. Sounds lovely, sounds reasonable. Reasonable, see, but if we just run that back, if we question this statement beyond just blindly hoping it's enough to protect us, what is this reasonable? I don't think I trust this label of reasonable, because how many times have we heard allegations, accusations, discriminations dismissed out of hand because you deemed them unreasonable, unrealistic, unprovable? How far are you willing to go in the name of unreasonable? How much can you listen to me before you tell me to stop? Calm down. Be reasonable. Treat allegations of discrimination seriously. Do you take me seriously? Because I take this seriously. This is my education, my rights, my freedom. This is serious. And honestly, I don't think you take it quite as seriously as I do. I don't think a slap on the wrist or a 2-day suspension is as drastic as it needs to be. I don't think a student can hear this policy and think, yes, this is enough protection for me. Preserve the dignity of all parties. I, for one, am willing to forgo a bit of propriety and niceties if it means I get safety. A perpetrator of bigotry isn't concerned about my dignity when they go after me. This sounds an awful lot like an excuse we've heard before. This person will not be sentenced because we need to maintain their dignity, preserve their career, their hopes and dreams they hold so dear. Meanwhile, the victim's dignity swirls deeper down the drain with every day their abuser walks unafraid. Is that really equity? Do we prioritize dignity over accountability? Fulfill its duty and legal obligations. Is our safety an obligation to you? Will you stick to what you must do by law and go no further? Are we allowed to ask for more than just duty? For real, concrete, actionable changes? Oh, my apologies. I forgot. That's not reasonable. 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 The more I say it, the less action it holds. The less it sounds like a real word. Words. Words, always words, strung together so nicely in a row, tied together with a shiny bow. Meant to placate, to sound proactive, pro this, pro that. And yet, read the news, ask a student. It isn't enough. And I know that not everything I say today is entirely reasonable. I know that there are things in motion, efforts being made that I, as a student, cannot entirely comprehend. But if these dramatics and theatrics are what it takes for me to be heard, I will gladly be your performer. Because when I look at this room, I don't feel resentment about all of this. I see hope, and I see bold, and I see brave, real change and potential. So this is not an attack. It's a call to action. How can equality be upheld when it was never there to begin with? We are trusting you to find out. Thank you.
Everyone, give me the vibe of the room. How's everyone feeling? I know we're at the end of the program. Okay, thank you, everyone. Now, my spoken word piece is called "To Not Tolerate, Condone, or Ignore." Now, the spoken word stems from policy 6.13. The board will not tolerate, condone, or ignore discrimination, harassment, and hate of any forms in its schools, facilities, workplaces, and other TDSB environments. Now, does society truly not tolerate discrimination, or is it just an empty proclamation? Harassment and hate, do they have a place in society that's constantly striving towards progression and grace? Should we just turn a blind eye and just pretend that the promises of this policy will extend to a society that will not tolerate, condone, or ignore? Words that sound nice, but we cannot ignore that actions speak more. As human biases always pour into words, hidden meaning, and lore. Tolerate, 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 to let exist. The unacceptable, the wrongs, the biases. Condone, 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 to accept. Behavior that's offensive, morally unkept. Ignore, ignore, ignore. To deny the hurt and pain that is constantly felt every day and night. The board does not tolerate, condone, or ignore any forms of harassment or hate, but these still pour into spaces which, according to this policy, should be no more. Why? Why? Well, this is due to our nature, our diverse perspectives, our mothers, our fathers, our ancestors who lived through and paved through a society that was built on generational racism, hate, genocide, profiteering, and more. Built on the backs of others who now experience the generational results every single day. However, it's not just a matter of race, because all forms of minorities still face some slight form of discrimination, harassment, and hate in almost every single societal place. From Black, brown, and indigenous, Asian, and Middle Eastern, Jewish, Latina, to us LGBTQIA+, to disabled, religious, and underprivileged, to more and more through, the board's policy continues to not tolerate discrimination, harassment, and hate. Yet as we can see, hate is everywhere we go. From microaggressions to hurtful blows, peers and educators alike have the ability to foster an environment that we clearly all truly dislike. In turn, the board must continue to do more than just speak. Their actions must be strong and deep. We cannot ignore these constant issues and pave the path for a future which is fulfilled by this once empty code, where those three words are fulfilled every time, where the TDSB will not tolerate, condone, or ignore these crimes. of discrimination, harassment, and hate in our schools, our workplaces, and our societal place. Thank you.